Between Lines and Lands, and we're doing scary Reddit stories today.
Yes.
I'm gonna be going first.
Okay, fine. I guess I'll just put that down then.
Yes, you can. So this one is called Trick or Treater. Okay. I am an old man, 75 to be precise, born February 9th, 1950. It's very relevant to the story. Just kidding, it's not at all.
He's just doing the typical old man thing where he's like, and there was Bridget and Jeremy
Yes. Anyways, I stayed in the house where I was born for my whole life. We were never a wealthy family. My father slaved away in a rubber manufacturing factory until he keeled over from a heart attack sometime in 1962. My mother, God rest her soul, took up 2 waitressing jobs at opposite ends of town to make up for the slack my father left behind. Every Thanksgiving, she'd have a hot plate on the table for each of us, consisting of peas, gravy, cornbread, and ham. We'd gobble it up like God himself sent it down, and we cherished every moment of that yearly dinner. Christmas was more of the same, a hot meal pieced together by what...
Wait, do they not normally eat? What's happening?
I think they're just thankful for the
Okay.
the meals.
Right, but that's
For
just
food.
it's like that's just like a normal meal, like sort of what do they
Anyways,
have?
this has
Okay.
to pertain to the story.
Sorry.
Anyway, so they didn't have a lot, obviously. They were very broke. Christmas was more of the same, a hot meal pieced together by what change my mom could scrape together. Topped off with cocoa and a nice little toy that would be the highlight of the whole evening. However, Halloween was different in my home. Different from the other two in the sense that this holiday was more solemnly prepared for. As early as July, my mother would begin storing away extra cash for October, and once the Halloween sales began, she would go all out. Bag after bag of candy, stringed bats, propped cobwebs, and every year she would pull out the same old witch costume. She never seemed particularly thrilled about any of it. However, in fact, it seemed as though it was her least favorite time of the year. Heck, I wasn't even allowed to touch the candy. Trick-or-treaters would flock to our porch, seeing the astonishingly decorated posts and steps, only to walk away disappointed when my mother handed them only one small sweet each. All but one, that is. See, every year my mother would warn me about this trick-or-treater. She would tell me how he'd look just like the rest, dressed up in costume, outstretched pillowcase in hand. However, unlike other trick-or-treaters, this one would be wearing no mask. His face would be the only thing not suited for the occasion. She described the boy's face as smooth and free of blemishes, with blindingly blonde hair pushed carefully to the right. His eyes would be an icy, piercing blue that burned effortlessly through your very being. And no matter what, his expression would not change. I caught my first glimpse of this person my mother described on Halloween night, 1957. I'd never been allowed to partake in my mother's October rituals, merely an onlooker watching from just beyond the front door. And from the vantage point is where I saw him, eyes glowing blue and hair shining blonde, dressed as Frankenstein. His entire body, excluding his face, was painted a deep green.
It's random.
It was so convincingly real looking that I was almost certain that it was his true skin. The most convincing part of his costume by far, however, were the metal bolts that stuck firmly out of each side of his neck. It looked as though precise surgical slits had been used to implant the bolts, and each wound dripped with black, tar-like substance that ran all the way down the length of the boy's neck. His expression was absolutely deadpan. I couldn't help but take notice that my mother had seemed to strain out and tense up from the moment he arrived on her doorstep. "Trick or treat," I heard him drag out. My mother responded with a frantic, "Oh, but of course, boy, please allow me," as she poured an entire bag of Tootsie Rolls straight into the pillowcase. So she went from giving each kid one tiny
sweet,
thing
and they can only have like a hot meal once a year.
and he's not allowed the candy as well.
Yeah.
So She poured an entire bag of Tootsie Rolls straight into his pillowcase. As the last wrapped delicacy fell from its packaging, I watched, dumbstruck, as she then proceeded to pour an entire bag of Dots into the pillowcase as well. Then Bazooka Gum, then Mary Jane's. She emptied every bag of candy she had been saving for that year into the pillowcase, which, all the while, remained completely flaccid.
So it didn't fill up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Once the candy had completely run out, the kid simply turned around and stepped off the porch. My mother breathed a sigh of relief and shot me an exhausted-looking smile before taking me by the hand and leading me to my bedroom where, just like every Halloween, she'd lie with me and we'd dream until November 1st.
I wonder, like, if the kid only comes to them, like, does family have, like, a weird deal with this entity, or, like...
I don't know if it's an entity or anything. That's as far as we know right now. It's just a little boy.
But it's obviously not, though.
Anyways.
And also, he can't stay a little boy for, like, several years, because he was 7 at this point.
Yes, so for 10 years, this tradition continued, and each year, I saw a new version of this child. I say child because child he remained. Never aging even a day. His skin remained smooth, and his hair stayed the same, radiating blonde, changing only his costume each Halloween. There he was again, face present and body hidden. That is, until Halloween 1967.
Then he wore crop top.
Earlier that year, my mother had lost her waitressing job uptown, leaving her and me reliant entirely upon tips from a single restaurant. I picked up a paper route around mid-August and hustled every day to chip in wherever I could. Unfortunately, with income cut in half for a few weeks, as was the supply of decor, and more importantly candy, my mother tried the best she could to scrape together as much as possible, but I could tell by the worrisome look that grew every more present in her face with each passing week, she knew it wouldn't be enough. When Halloween night finally arrived and the hour drew later and later, we heard the dreaded footsteps climb onto the steps of the front porch. Step, 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 then the knocking, 3 slow rhythmic knocks. Trick or treat. My mother's eyes filled with an anxious fear. As she rose to make her way to the door, pulling it open, she was met with a zombie. Skin on his arms was peeling off and sagged from the appendage. His shirt was torn, revealing a maggot-infested wound streaking the length of his chest, internal organs dangling out of his stomach as he held the pillowcase out. Yet again, trick or treat.
I mean, why can't they just, like, not, like, open their door? Like, why can't they just be like...
I'm gonna find out. Anyways, trick or treat. Oh yes, forgive me, child, my mother replied. Cautiously, she began emptying the candy that we had gathered. Dots, Tootsie Rolls, Mars bars, Hershey Kisses, then nothing. There you are, dear, my mother said nervously. The kid looked down into the black void of his pillowcase before snapping his icy blue eyes back at my mother. Trick or treat, he grunted frantically. Yes, sweetie, trick or treat. Now, good night, I really must be off to bed. Trick or treat, the boy continued, growing more and more aggressive with each bellow. My mother attempted to shut the door, to which the boy slammed his entire body heavily against the wood. Trick or treat, trick or treat. The wounds on the boy's body that I was sure were not cosmetic at this point boiled and leaked out all over the entrance into our living room as he forcibly shoved his way inside. He simply would not stop chanting those deafening 3 words, even as he tackled my mother to the ground. Rushing to her aid, I pulled with all my might to restrain the child, but it was as though he completely latched onto my mother with his fingernails, as his fingernails drove deep into her rib cage. I screamed as the sound of flesh tearing filled the room, along with my mother's desperate pleas of agony. Straining with all my might, the boy refused to budge as he snapped things after things, snapping things.
What did he snap? Okay.
Anyways, and then he stuffed each bone into his never-ending pillowcase, and all I could do was watch in horror, and he pried a gaping hole into her chest with his claw-like fingernails. Ripping and tearing, he clawed straight through to my mother's organs and heart, her lungs, her stomach. He stuffed everything into his pillowcase. Once she had been picked completely clean, he placed her head and shoulders along the seams of the pillowcase and tugged along the edges until her entire body disappeared into his black void of the pillowcase. The room fell silent. The boy then turned to me, completely expressionless, before lugging the pillowcase over his shoulder and walking out of the house. I stood there, completely petrified, too scared to even move until morning. This was 57 years ago, and the reason I'm writing this now is because I am sick and a dying man. My house is currently on the market, and I need to leave this as a warning to whoever may come into possession of it. Please, do not underestimate the importance of stocking up completely on candy. He very well may be visiting you this Halloween.
That's wild.
I'd like to know, like, why? Like, what was the deal?
Yeah, like, that's kind of, I feel like it was very open-ended, honestly.
It was very open-ended, but, like, it's a cool concept. But, like, if there was just that, like, of the why, like, there was some sort of deal made.
Yeah, and, like, maybe he could have understood more, like, because he was older. Like, so the kid obviously still continued to come, like, but yeah.
Maybe he always stocked up on candy?
Yeah, but, like, you would think that he would have found out more, you know what I mean? And, like, what happened to him, like, he said he stayed in the house, but he was only, like, 12 when this happened, so who came to look after him? Did they know about it?
There was a few things that could have been added to that story, but, like, I think it was a good, like, creative thing. Like, it's a good concept.
Yeah.
But yeah. Add more next time. Just a little bit more like meat to it. That's about it.
Yeah.
Besides that, great story.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, this one is called I'm an EMT and the victim was possessed. Okay, as we made our way up the driveway, we were presented with trash and clothing thrown wildly about the front lawn and porch, and violent screams came from inside the home. My partner and I looked at each other nervously, before he took a deep breath and knocked on the door. It swung open nearly immediately, and a tall, exhausted-looking man in an unbuttoned shirt with a stained white tank top underneath stood before us. He was pale-faced, and looked as though he had been crying. In his right hand he gripped a Bible so hard that his knuckles glowed white. More violent screams came from behind him as he practically dragged us into the house. Upon entering, the blood was the first thing we noticed. It was all over the floor, and a trail of it led down the hall in the direction that this man was ushering us. It stopped at a locked door. Beyond it, we heard more screaming, animalistic grunts and growls that made my blood run cold through my veins. Along with the screaming, a faint sound of squelching could be heard rhythmically. I knocked on the door, and the screaming stopped on a dime. In the midst of all the chaos, I had neglected to ask the man his name or his relation to the person behind the door, and while I awaited a response from whoever was in the room, my partner got all this information. It turned out he was the girl's father, and she had apparently gone completely ballistic, seemingly out of nowhere, trashing the house and throwing all of her clothing out in the yard, including the ones she was wearing. Her father attempted to intervene, to which she responded by bashing her head into the walls and locking herself in the room with a kitchen knife, all while screaming that demonic scream. While we were receiving this information and attempting to get inside, a scream came again from the room, in the most inhuman voice I've ever heard, a screeching, "Leave me alone!" echoed. Thank you. Echoed out from beyond the door. This pushed the father over the edge in the midst of his breakdown, and he began throwing himself full force against the bedroom door, kicking as hard as he could. He managed to break the door down before we could restrain him, and what I saw in that bedroom has haunted me for years. This girl lay on the bed, completely nude and expressionless, and stared through my soul as she plunged the kitchen knife into her torso, over and over and over. Blood soaked the bed and poured out from dozens of wounds on her body, yet she continued screeching and thrashing like an animal, jabbing the knife in. Without thinking, I shoved past her father and restrained the hand she held the knife with. The animalistic screams grew even more deafening as she fought with more life than should have been in her to get me off. It took took all of my strength to pry her fingers from the knife, and I tossed it to the far corner of the room as soon as I did. With her father wailing and the girl herself gnashing her teeth and snarling, my partner and I restrained her and fought her to get her to the ambulance. She stayed on 2 feet and resisted us with the force of a grown man. I stunned... What? A stunning contrast to the strength of any other teenage girl. Reaching the back doors of the vehicle, I had to climb up into the patient compartment to retrieve the stretcher, and we strapped her down and started pushing her inside. As we did so, both her arms shot right to the side of the entrance, and she dug her fingers in so hard that the middle and index fingernails on her left hand snapped off, oozing blood, prompting more screeching. Once we finally got her into the ambulance, her father hopped in the back with me, and we made our way to the hospital. Looking her over, her wounds were absolutely detrimental. Her insides looked as though they had been turned to mush, and the fact that she was still alive was absolutely a miracle. The screeching stopped, though her vitals began to fall dramatically. Her previously wide and bloodshot eyes began to flutter and shut, and by the time we reached the hospital she had fainted and was announced dead on arrival. The father was an absolute mess, and I don't blame him, partly because of the sheer scope of everything, but also because I remember her last words, the words she spoke when looking into her father's eyes as the life left hers. How did it get here?
Damn.
Right?
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. I won this round!
There's
Fuck
no
yeah.
winning.
I won it.
It's not a competition.
The best story.
It's not a competition.
I found the best one.
Yes, yours was better than mine. And it's not a competition.
I mean, it was kind of.
For you. No, that was really good, and I noticed there's actually a lot of EMT stories.
Yeah.
Like when I was coming through the Reddit stories, there is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could be an EMT person.
No, I definitely couldn't be an EMT. Yeah.
Not my thing.
No. Yeah. I mean, like, obviously a lot of these stories are made up, but I do think that a lot of them, I mean, you see some wild shit as an EMT.
Oh, yeah, I think you would, yeah. And,
yeah.
like, dealing with death and stuff like that, and, like, yeah, just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But anyways, those are our scary stories for tonight.
Yes.
So, enjoy those. Have fun sleeping.
Oh, and we got Halloween decorations.
Yes, we're gonna fancy things up here.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't even see the peach on mine because of the lights. It's reflecting it off. But this is a peach.
Yeah,
I'll
that's very cute.
fix that. But it's because it's like a one big screen.
Mm.
Anyways, I will fix that so you can see it better.
Yeah, but we got a calcula blow up.
Like, yeah, a cow, Highland cow vampire
Dracula,
thing. So we're gonna put some more Halloween decorations up here because it's that time. So
yeah.
bye.
Okay, bye.